Okay, guys, here we go. I'm excited. This is the first installment of the story that I'm writing. Now, again, for those of you who don't know, we've been talking about this in the chats for some time. I'm writing an anime story. Now, whether this would actually be a manga or to call it anime is a little bit of a misnomer simply because I cannot draw. It's all textual. So it's more of a novel than anything else, but it's written, I believe, in the vein of a good anime. Now, it's called Rauha. You'll see where it gets the name from within the storyline itself, of course. I'm going to be doing, I've got about 2,200 words here. I want to read you the first part. A lot of this is set up, of course, characters getting set up. Where we're going to end off is right where it starts to get into the first confrontation, if you will, of the story. And for those of you who like to draw, we've been talking about this in the live streams. If you'd like to draw a picture reflective of anything within this story, of any of the characters, of any of the settings for Rauha, anything at all that you'd like to draw, feel free to. I would ask that you send them to me via Twitter is the best way. Just send them to me in a tweet if you can. If not, you can always send them through Facebook. I don't use our Facebook page as much simply because Facebook are complete jerk-offs to work with. But any place you want to send them to me, let me know they're there. Again, now these are, I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression because I know we have some professional artists out there. This is just strictly for fun. When I'm going to make books of these as I finish each arc, what I'd like to do is for any of you who want to contribute fan art to it, I'm going to include them in the book. I'm also going to include your fan arts into future videos where I read more of the story. But these are non-paying pictures. So I don't want anybody getting the wrong impression that, well, you owe me for this picture or I drew art for this picture. This is just if you want to draw to have some fun and to have your drawing put within the framework of the project. The eventual goal is I'll have two different copies. There will be the fan art copy with fan arts in it, and then eventually I'm going to commission somebody. I'm going to pay somebody to draw the actual artwork for the story. So there will be two whole different books that come out. And when you draw something, if you would, if you want your name on it, or you don't have to, you can do it anonymously if you want, but whether you want your screen name, your real name, a first name, anything, put it right on the drawing. Make it visible within the drawing itself so that when I add it to the project, people see who drew it. But that's all. Hit me if you like drawing. Draw anything you want, any one of the characters, anything that you see fit from what you hear from this reading today. Draw it, send it to me. I can't promise I'll use everything. I don't know how many I'm going to get, but I'll use as many of them as I can in videos and when the book is created, the book itself. Okay, enough talking. This is the first portion of Rauha. Let's go to story time here. The ball arced through the air, its bright red hue in stark contrast to the painfully beautiful blue sky. The ball was one of those solid, hard rubber, old school types, not one of the puffy, injury-free models used by those who fear concussion. As a side note, fuck you, train. Not one of those puffy, injury-free models used by those who fear concussion. The ball descended on a path, taking it enticingly close to clearing the outfield fence, which would result in Brax's first career home run. High Florin positioned himself against the fence, hoping to be able to make a play. He tracked the ball's flight and leapt at the perfect moment, snatching the ball back into the playing field with a very impressive home run stealing catch. Brax had already rounded first and was in the midst of his triumphant home run tour of the bases when he saw his best friend commit the robbery. "Oh, come on," Brax shouted in anguish. "I've been waiting my whole life for a home run." Brax trudged back toward the sidelines as High's teammates enthusiastically cheered him. As Brax sat his smallish frame down next to the fence surrounding the field, his dad, Curtis, with a K, who never missed one of his son's game, offered some perspective-inspiring words. "You're 8. You probably have a few games left in you." Even in disappointment, Brax couldn't help but smile. It had been 141 years since the final war, the global apocalypse that had nearly exterminated life on the planet. As much as the war itself was a testament to humankind's stupidity, the fact that human life had resumed at all was a confirmation of the tenacity of some of the species. Brax turned his attention to a small satchel on the other side of the field. The name High was scrawled on the front of it. "Well," he mused aloud, "if my best friend can steal my home run, I'm sure he'll understand why I need to steal his brownie." Brax's eyes fixed on the satchel. The bag suddenly flew with jet-like propulsion across the field and into Brax's awaiting hungry hands. He looked inside the bag and located the treasured treat. Before he could enjoy his ill-gotten booty, however, Dad interjected. "Except that his stealing was just part of the game, and your thievery is pure butt-hurt jerkiness," Dad observed. Brax considered this, but then said, "True. But have you ever had one of Hi's mom's brownies? She has some cool ability that makes her able to intensify the flavor of foods." Now this information widened Curtis's eyes. Brax's dad was a large, rather imposing figure with his barrel chest, thick arms, and shiny bald head. He definitely looked like the type of guy who would fully appreciate some extra flavor in food. He reconsidered his stance on this particular thievery. "What I meant was, it would be jerkiness if you didn't give me half," he explained. Brax snapped the treat in two pieces, and Father enjoyed their illicit but delicious snack. While the combination of fallout and infection from the various types of nuclear and chemical weapons used in the apocalyptic war created some bizarre mutations and abilities in some people, none were more welcome than those that enhanced life's little pleasures, such as the sweet escape of a perfectly baked brownie. Those who emerged from the apocalypse, both the survivors and the protected, had largely dismissed the notion of religion. When all of reality had descended into a fiery pit of death, evil, and despair, and no deity took it upon his or herself to show up and quell things, it tended to cement the lack of divine being existence for everyone. Given that, to the citizens of Rauha, kickball was the closest thing to a religious experience. They loved that silly game. As Father and son were just about done shoveling brownie into their faces, the inning ended and Hi and the rest of his team ran off the field. Hi made a beeline towards Curtis and Brax. The younger thief scrambled to hide the satchel behind his back. Hi quickly surveyed the scene and came to an immediate conclusion. "You ate my brownie, didn't you?" Brax is uncomfortable, having been so easily caught. He squirms and offers a weak defense. "What makes you think that?" he scoffed. "Oh, I don't know," Hi responded. "Maybe just all the crumbs and chocolate around your mouth?" Not wanting to be implicated, Curtis quickly amped up some shock and indignation. "You took his brownie?" he said to his son. "I am appalled." Curtis then quickly thought to not so subtly wipe the crumbs and chocolate away from his own mouth. Rather than being angry over the petty theft, Hi was actually amused. "It's cool, Brax," he told his best friend, "because my mom will make me more brownies. You, on the other hand, still don't have a home run." And with that, Hi pantomimes the dropping of a mic and walks off. The father and son were left silent for a moment, then Curtis observed, "Wow, he really owned you on that one." Brax nodded agreement, then countered his father with, "He sure did, and thanks a lot for not throwing me under the bus or anything." Unfazed by the sarcasm, the older man simply responded with, "No problem." Some of the other kids began shouting to Brax to come out onto the field. They were going to start another game. Mel, a very cute little 8-year-old girl, offered some support to her friend and classmate. "Come on, Brax, I'm sure you'll get a home run this time," she shouted with a genuine smile and enthusiasm. Brax got up and headed back out onto the field. As he did, however, a strange and sudden look of concern came over Curtis's face. His eyes carefully and suspiciously surveyed the entire surrounding area, even though no one else seemed to be alerted to anything at all. Outside of a kind of weird little flicker of light in the area of some of the woods surrounding the fields, there was not much of anything to be considered alarming. However, without ever easing his look of concern, Curtis called out to the kids. "Hey, you guys, it's getting kind of late and there's school tomorrow. Why don't we all pack it in for the day?" There were some minor moans of disappointment, but the kids were a very respectful group, so they gathered their belongings and headed towards their homes. Many of them high-fived or otherwise called out goodbyes to Curtis as they left. Curtis smiled at each of them as they went, but even then it was clear that he was distracted by something disturbing. Curtis and Brax walked up the short walkway to the front door of their very modest and comfy home. They went inside, where they were greeted by the family matriarch, Cheyenne. "There's my boys," the pretty mom and wife said while walking towards them for hugs. "How did things go at kickball for the Williams boys?" "Pretty good," Brax began. "I almost got a homer." "That's awesome," Mom exulted. "Maybe next time you'll get one." Yeah, Brax mused, if High will skip a game or slip on a banana peel or something. Cheyenne was confused by this response. As she was about to ask for explanation, though, she took notice of Curtis's still very concerned demeanor. She determined it would be better to have her son out of earshot before questioning her husband. "Why don't you go wash up, Brax? Dinner will be ready soon," she said. "Okay, Mom," Brax said, and he ran off to do just that. Cheyenne moved forward and got very close to her husband, concern displayed on her pretty features. "What is it, Curtis?" she asked. "What's going on?" "I'm not sure," Curtis began, "but there was something or someone in the vicinity of the kickball fields. I'm going to grab a couple of the guys and go check it out." A look of dread came to Cheyenne's face. "Please be careful," she implored. Curtis smiled and winked at his wife. "I'm sure it'll be fine," he said reassuringly. "It's probably just some mutant animal from the mountains or something." Curtis headed out the door. The land of Rauha was actually an island. As the planet finally stabilized again after the insane destruction of the apocalypse, the landscape worldwide had been completely reconstructed. Rauha's topography was created in a unique manner. Roughly one half of the island was a nirvana-ish paradise with great weather, beautiful beaches, and serene rolling hills. The other half of the island wasn't treated as kindly in its creation. It was comprised of thick jungle and jagged peaks with many dangerous sinkholes and impediments. Many of the indigenous animals were nasty, either by nature or by mutation. The residents of Rauha developed an effective security detail that kept the evil creatures away from their dwellings, and the harsh jungle had done an admirable job of blocking access to the community from would-be invaders from that side. Curtis walked through the village, the darkening of the evening sky allowing the warm lights of the homes to create a Rockwellian scene. Curtis reached a specific house in the middle of the village. He knocked on the front door. The door opened, and greeting the guest was little Mel. "Hi, Mr. Williams," Mel said with a smile. She peeked out the door and looked around, checking to see if Curtis had a traveling companion. "Where's Brax? Didn't he come with you?" Curtis smiled at the little sweetheart. "No, Mel," he answered. "He's at home, stuffing his face with dinner." "Figures," she said with a rolling of the eyes. "Is your daddy around?" Curtis asked. "Yeah, come on in," Mel invited as she moved inside with her visitor. "Daddy!" Mel shouted. "Mr. Williams is here." Mel's dad, Gilly, entered the room, followed by his wife, Dana. "What's up, old man?" Gilly said, both greeting and antagonizing his guest at the same time. "Get over yourself," a clearly triggered Curtis responded. "You're 2 freaking years younger than me." "That's an important couple of years, though," Gilly continued baiting. "It means you're old, but I'm still prime." "Yeah," Curtis scoffed. "Prime full of bullshit." Curtis took notice of Dana's presence and regretted his language. "Oops, sorry, Dana," he said. "No worries," Dana reassured him. "Gilly uses way stronger language than that when you guys beat his team at kickball." Curtis nodded his understanding. "Which is pretty much every time," he offered. "You're so smart and attractive, Dana," Curtis observed. "I've never understood how you ended up with him." "Lost a bet," she explained. This was enough for Gilly. "All right," now he interrupted. "Did you come over here just so you two could work on your comedy routine, or did you actually want something?" he asked Curtis. "I actually need your help for a minute on something," Curtis explained. While Curtis's demeanor indicated that it was not an emergency situation, Gilly knew his friend very well and immediately sensed that the time for joking was done and that he should head out with him. "Okay," Gilly said as he grabbed his shoes and put them on. "Let's go." Dana looked concerned. "Curtis, what's going on?" she asked. Curtis waved it off in a manner telling her not to worry. "It's nothing at all," he reassured Dana. "I just need a couple extra pair of hands for a quick repair at the jungle border." Dana appeared to not be completely convinced, but she didn't question any further as her husband kissed her on the cheek and the 2 men headed for the door. Gilly winked at his daughter as he was leaving. "Melly Bear, get in your pajamas and I'll be back in time to give you a kiss goodnight," he instructed. "Okay, Dad," little Mel responded with a smile. Once outside, Gilly felt comfortable to speak with concern in his voice. "What's going on, Curtis?" he asked. "I'm not sure. Maybe nothing," Curtis explained, "but I sensed something at the kids' game earlier and I wanted to grab a couple of you guys to come with me just to make sure that everything is cool." "Gotcha," Gilly began. "So you gonna get Ragav?" he asked. "Yep," Curtis responded, and the 2 men walked in tandem toward Ragav's house. It was a relatively short journey from the middle of the village to the outskirts near the jungle where Rauha lived. As the two men began walking up the long pathway towards their friend's front door, Rauha appeared on the porch. As they got within earshot, Rauha smiled and observed, "Both of you guys are out of your houses at dinner time. It's got to be serious. I better bring this, huh?" Rauha reached out and picked up an imposing-looking flexible metal staff that had been leaning next to his door. Curtis smiled and nodded. "Hopefully you won't need it, but it never hurts to have it accompany us," he said. As the three men began their trek alongside the complex of kickball fields heading towards the jungle, it seemed as if the night sky and full moon had given the trees and mountains a particularly imposing, maybe even intimidating, look. And that's it. That's where we are so far, guys. That's the basic setup. That's the beginning of Rauha. Met a few of the characters. Set up the first issues, if there's going to be some issues following. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you like the base of the story. Again, if you want to do any types of drawings whatsoever on any of these characters, anything that was contained in here, feel free to shoot them to me via Twitter, preferably, Facebook, however you want to get them to me. Contact me. Send me the pictures. Again, it depends on how many we get. I'll use as many of them as I can within the finished book. Each arc of this story will have its own book. I'll use as many of the pictures I can in that edition, and then there will be another edition that comes out with the commissioned official artwork for it. But I thought it'd be fun to have fan art of it, and I can contribute because, again, can't draw the straight line thing. That's it. That's the opening of Rauha. Let me know what you guys think. Talk to you soon.